how far into an enemy's lair can you really go before the way out closes behind you and the darkness itself starts to fight back.
And not just with claws and teeth, but with things you couldn't possibly prepare for.
Exactly. We're tracking a group that thought they were deep underground, but they were actually walking into a trap that was, well, it was more than just a physical one. This moment, this shift from fighting thugs to fighting elemental chaos, and then ultimately fighting their own minds, is exactly where we're dropping in.
It is the turning point.
Absolutely.
When the threat stops being something you can hit with a sword and becomes something inside your own head, the entire game changes. They started this thinking they were busting up a local gang.
Right.
Now they're facing a conspiracy that has put a massive target on their backs.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into a really critical analysis of Session 7 of this whole mission. And the context here is just, it's vital. You have Turin, Valindra, Lyra, Imogen, and Pleblep with their ally Neza, and they are deep, deep beneath Trezendar Manor.
The goal was supposed to be simple, right? Find the Red Brand leader, this glass staff, and rescue some prisoners.
But by this point, after all the ambushes, the monsters discovering the links to King Roll and the Black Spider, they're not just exploring anymore, they're on a collision course.
A collision course with the core of the entire operation. And this deep dive, it's all about that pivotal moment. We're looking at 3 distinct threats they face, one right after the other. First, this elemental threat.
Then a moral challenge, a real test of their character.
And finally, the psychological horror of a creature that has been listening to their thoughts for days.
It's this transition from physical survival to a question of their own integrity, which then just throws them headfirst into the jaws of a psychic predator. The stakes aren't just about getting out alive anymore.
No. Now it's about preserving their sanity.
Okay, let's start at the beginning of this ordeal. Let's start with that deep, deep chill.
Right, so the first big set piece here is this large, murky cistern. Basically a massive pool of freezing cold water deep in the complex.
And the party, they've just fought their way through a lot of chaos. They're looking for anything, any clue, any resource they can find. And that's when they see something.
Imogen spots it. A dark bag, sort of canvas looking, submerged at the very bottom, just barely visible.
And that's the classic lure, isn't it? The promise of a reward in a place that's obviously dangerous.
It is. And you have to remember, they're running low on everything. They need a win, they need a clue, a weapon, anything. So the risk seems worth it.
So Turin, the gnome barbarian, he's the one who steps up. He gets a rope, secures himself, and just dives into that freezing water.
Yeah.
He's going for the prize.
But the room itself was screaming trap. The source material is so specific about this. The walls of the cistern weren't just stone. They were lined with these ornate, really disturbing tiles.
Who did they show?
Haunting winter scenes, swirling snowflakes, jagged icicles. It was all about sudden, violent cold. It wasn't just decoration, it was a warning, a premonition of what was waiting for them.
It tells you this lair was designed by someone with access to specific and very dangerous magic, not just a bunch of thugs.
Exactly. The whole environment is hostile. It's not passive, it's actively telling them to turn back.
But Turin swims down anyway. He's focused, his eyes are straining in the dark water, and then it happens. The instantaneous freeze.
And this is where the trap just reveals its pure malice. The water doesn't get colder, doesn't slowly freeze over.
No.
The instant his fingers brush against that bag, the water, the air, everything around him just shatters into solid ice.
The description is terrifying. Frigid agony. It's not just an obstacle, it's a psychological weapon. It's designed to create total, immediate helplessness.
That's the strategic goal, you see. It's not just about doing damage, it's about disabling their heavy hitter in a single moment. Turin goes from a mobile, raging fighter to a completely immobilized target.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. And the cold, it's described as this bone-aching lethargy that just saps all his strength. He is literally encased in a tomb of ice.
Making him a perfect target for whatever comes next. Because the freeze was just the trigger, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, the freeze was just phase 1. With this grotesque, splintering sound, 4 creatures, 4 Mephits, tear themselves out of the very ice that's holding Turin.
For anyone listening who might not know, what exactly are Mephits?
They're small, chaotic elemental beings, in this case, made of pure frost and wind. And their appearance means the enemy has serious resources. You don't just hire Mephits, you conjure them. This is high-level stuff.
And they don't just attack, they use strategy, they use the environment.
A very sophisticated strategy. One of them immediately conjures a dense, swirling fog. The whole area is plunged into this impenetrable mist.
So no one can see anything. You can't coordinate. You can't use ranged attacks. You can't see who needs healing.
Exactly. Total chaos. And at the same time, another one unleashes this blinding gust of freezing air, a breath weapon that just chills Valindra, Lyra, Imogen, Pleptulep, chills them to the bone. It slows them down, saps their will to fight.
So in the span of, what, a few seconds, the party is dealing with a friend trapped in ice. 4 flying elemental monsters, total darkness, and debilitating cold.
It's a kill zone. It is perfectly designed to overwhelm them. It forces them into a purely defensive fight, trying to rescue their friend while being harassed by these agile creatures they can barely even see.
The source notes say they fought with this grim determination, just defensively trying to survive, until they finally shattered the Mephits forms.
It was a desperate, brutal fight. And it cost them. They're exhausted, they're freezing. But they win. They free Turin, and they get the bag.
And the contents of that bag are what truly changes this entire mission.
It does. I mean, the loot itself is good. There's gold, a potion of invisibility, a scroll of scrying, which tells you the Red Brands are involved in some kind of espionage.
But that's not the real prize.
No. The real prize is a single crumpled letter. This letter is the smoking gun. It's the piece of evidence that just blows the lid off their entire understanding of what's happening.
Let's really break down the implications here, because this is the moment a local problem becomes a regional crisis. It's addressed to Lord Cost, but it's signed by Glassstaff.
The man they're hunting. And the instructions in that letter are so specific and so chilling.
Capture or kill them and deliver any maps to me with haste.
But the P part, the part that changes everything, is the mention of reports from spies in Waterdeep. Spies reporting on the arrival of these strangers, the heroes in Phandalin.
This one piece of paper just flips the script. Before this, they knew the Black Spider wanted a map. They knew Glassstaff was a local crime boss. But now...
Now they have confirmation of a massive, coordinated conspiracy. It tells you 2 things. First, the Black Spider's network is not local. It's operating at a national level. Spies in Waterdeep, the biggest city in the region. That implies political reach, intelligence networks.
And the second thing?
The party isn't just interfering. They are the specific targets. They were identified and marked for elimination before they even set foot in this manor. Maybe even before they left Waterdeep.
So they've gone from local heroes helping a friend to designated threats on a kill list.
They're not chasing the conspiracy anymore. The conspiracy is now actively hunting them. It explains everything. The intensity of the traps, the ambushes, the monsters. None of it was random. It was all designed specifically to stop them.
That ice trap wasn't just general security, it was for them.
It was activated because they were the recognized threat trying to get that intelligence.
And they barely have a second to let that new, terrifying reality sink in before the next wave hits them. The theory of conspiracy immediately becomes the practice of brutal, close-quarters combat.
Yes, there's absolutely no respite. The noise from that elemental fight, the shouting, it alerts the rest of the lair. 3 more Red Brands come rushing in, and their job is to finish what the Mephits started.
And the party is in a terrible state. They're cold, they're battered, they're reeling from what they just read in that letter, and now they're in another fight for their lives.
This is where that constant pressure, that attrition, really starts to take a toll. Neza, the Drawl, who has been such a powerful ally for them.
She fights bravely here.
She does. But the Red Brands are relentless. They're disciplined. Maybe they're just terrified of Glassstaff. But they fight hard, and Neza takes some grievous wounds, debilitating injuries.
And she's forced to make a hard choice.
A tactical choice. The only choice, really. She has to retreat. She slips away from the fight to find a safe place to stabilize, to tend to her wounds.
Which is a huge blow to the party. In the middle of an enemy stronghold, they've just lost one of their most powerful combatants.
A massive consequence. It's a stark reminder that even the strongest allies have limits. Resources are not infinite. You can't just keep pushing forever.
They do manage to defeat those Red Brands, but the cost is mounting. They find the Red Brands barracks and take a moment, a desperately needed breather.
And after tending to their wounds, trying to process what that letter means, they get back to the mission. Find the prisoners, find Glassstaff.
And this leads them to a really interesting discovery, a hidden door.
Yeah, and we get this great little character moment here for Turin. You know, you have the other, maybe bigger, stronger members of the party trying to force this door open, and it won't budge.
And then the gnome barbarian, who's more known for his cleverness than his raw strength.
He steps up, and there's this mighty surge of unexpected power. He just shoves the heavy stone door inward. It's a great little nod to his own growing strength, his own potential.
And when that door opens, the entire atmosphere changes.
Instantly, they leave the filth and the blood of the Red Brand barracks behind. They step into this long, shadowed hallway, and at the end of it, a set of huge, imposing double doors. Carved into the stone above them is a single word.
Trezendar.
This is the manor's history reasserting itself. They've moved from the criminal present into the solemn past. And inside that room, it's a cavernous space, and it's lined with ancient sarcophagi.
These aren't just crude boxes, they're ornate burial places, flanked by carved skeletons, decorated with these intertwined tree carvings, the Trezendar family crest.
This is a noble crypt, the resting place of generations, not just some storage room the bandits have been using.
And this solemn, quiet place becomes the setting for maybe the most important choice they make in this entire session.
A true moral crossroads.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself in their shoes. In a dungeon crawl, what's the objective?
Loot.
Loot. And they are desperate for it. They're low on gold, low on supplies, and the threats are only getting worse. So they cautiously open these crypts. And inside, with the ancient remains, are single valuable items. An old sword, a jewel, a symbol of office.
Treasure. Right there for the taking. It could fund the rest of their mission.
But they don't take it. The source material is very clear. It says a profound respect for the dead settled over them. They made a conscious collective choice not to disturb them, not to take their things.
They felt it was a violation.
Let's analyze that for a second. In this dark, violent place, surrounded by people with no honor, no morals, this act of restraint is their moral anchor. The easy choice, the strategically sound choice, would be to take the treasure. But by refusing, they are defining who they are. They're drawing a line in the sand between themselves and their enemies.
They're saying, we are not like them. They won't stoop to the level of the Red Brands who murdered the town sheriff and imprisoned his family.
It's that integrity that makes them heroes and not just mercenaries. It's why they are so dangerous to the Black Spider. Because they're not motivated by greed. They will sacrifice immediate, tangible gain for an abstract principle like honor.
It's a moment of grounding themselves before they step into the deepest horror yet.
And that's exactly what happens next. They've passed the physical test, they've passed the moral test, and now they press on.
And they hear voices, faintly, barely audible over this constant, low, nagging whisper that's been in the back of their minds since they got down here.
That psychic noise is the thread that ties this whole session together. It's this low-grade hum of mental invasion, and it's been building. And for Valindra especially, it's becoming unbearable.
Yes, she seems particularly sensitive to it. She's reaching her breaking point.
Her internal struggle really drives the action here. That constant noise, the feeling of her mind being encroached upon. It's too much. So when she hears those faint, real voices, she doesn't think. She doesn't use caution.
She just reacts.
She reacts out of sheer frustration and rage and exhaustion. The source notes describe it as a frustrated cry, and she just bursts through the door, a whirlwind of steel and fury.
She immediately attacks.
Immediately. Plunges her short sword into one Red Brand, slashes another one. It's a desperate, fluid motion driven entirely by this mental pain she's been enduring.
And that action kicks off the final fight in this part of the lair. After the skirmish is over, they see what the Red Brands have been doing. They see the prison cells.
And the scene is it's horrifying. In one cell, there's a woman and her 2 young daughters, terrified. And in the cell next to them, the decaying remains of her husband, the town sheriff.
And the woman tells them he was murdered because he was getting too close to the truth. He was about to expose who was really behind the Red Brands.
Which connects directly back to that letter. It confirms the stakes. The Red Brands weren't just bullies. They were the muscle for a political operation, eliminating anyone who threatened the Black Spider's secrecy.
And then comes the confession. There's a wounded Red Brand, a man named Turin, cornered and begging for his life, and he tells them everything.
He does. In a desperate bid to save himself, he confirms their worst fears about the Whispers.
What does he tell them? Exactly.
He says there's a creature living in a crevasse they passed earlier, and this creature, he says, is the source of the voices, the source of the mental torment. And he reveals its abilities. It can read minds, it can hear thoughts.
It feeds on secrets.
Exactly. This is the moment of confirmation, that feeling of dread, that sense of being watched that Turin and Ohio felt earlier. It wasn't just stress, it was real. It was a psychic parasite living in the foundations of the manor.
They finally have a name for their torment.
But what's so fascinating and so terrifying is what happens the moment he confesses. The second Turin reveals the secret of the mind reader, that constant, low background hum of whispers in their heads.
It just stops.
It vanishes instantly.
Silence. And that sudden silence is so much more terrifying than the noise was.
Oh, absolutely. Because it signals a shift. The ambient noise stops because the predator doesn't need to hunt for information anymore. It's done listening passively.
It has what it needs.
It has all the data it needs. The creature, which we now understand as a Nothic, being obsessed with consuming secrets and memories, has just switched from passive data collection to active targeted engagement. It's moving from eavesdropping to interrogation.
So it knows they're there. It knows what they want, and now it knows their weaknesses.
Before we get to that final horrific assault, the source gives us a quick cutaway just to remind us of the wider stakes.
Right. Back in Famblin, we see Sister Garale, and she's with the unconscious Gundren. She's pale, worried, in a room filled with notes.
It's a small detail, but it's so important. It reminds you, the listener, that this crisis isn't just in the tunnels, the quest giver, their friends. Everyone is in danger. This is just one front in a much larger war.
But back in that prison room, the silence is finally broken. Not by a sound you hear with your ears.
No, it's a voice, clear as a bell, resonating directly inside each of their minds.
This is the climax. The physical fight is over. The psychological horror is just beginning.
And the attack is so terrifying because of its intimacy. The voice speaks to every single party member individually, but also at the same time. And it's whispering their deepest, most personal secrets and fears.
It is the ultimate violation.
It is. Think about the tactical advantage here. The creature doesn't need to guess their weaknesses. It knows their emotional source code.
So for someone like Turin, who carries this immense guilt about a past fire, that's the weapon it uses.
Precisely. It weaponizes his regret. It's not trying to hit him with a spell. It's trying to paralyze him with his own guilt, to make him doubt everything he's doing.
And for the others, Valindra searching for her lost sister, Imogen with her forgotten trauma, it's all tailored.
It's a perfectly tailored psychological assault. The Nothic knows about Lep's lost home, Lyra's insecurities, every secret they've ever kept. And in that one silent moment, the realization dawns on all of them. The interrogation has already begun.
They won, they got the prisoners, they got the evidence. But in doing so, they've laid their minds bare to the most terrifying thing in this entire lair.
The battlefield has completely changed. They survived a physical trap in the cistern, only to walk straight into a metal cage.
Surrounded by the echoes of their own worst fears.
And that's where the session leaves us. Standing in that filthy prison room, with the sheriff's rescued family, holding a letter that proves they're marked for death, while a voice that knows everything about them begins to speak. #outro.
So let's just unpack this. This session was monumental. It starts with this terrifying survival against the elements in a frozen tomb.
Which gives them the key piece of intelligence they needed.
Then it moves to this solemn crypt, where they make a choice that upholds their honor, that saves their integrity, and it ends with a moral victory, rescuing the innocent, the sheriff's family.
But the terrible irony is that in achieving those victories, in getting the letter and saving the family, they triggered the lair's ultimate defense system. They exposed their deepest vulnerabilities to an enemy you can't fight with a sword.
The Nothic. It's now using tailored, specific psychological attacks. They've gone from fighting ice Mephits to fighting their own trauma.
You start to wonder if the Red Brands, the whole gang, were just a distraction. The outer layer of security for this ancient mind-warping creature that feeds on secrets.
The real operation isn't about physical control of the town. It's about intellectual and psychological control.
And that presents a critical problem. How do you fight an enemy that knows your next move because it can literally read your mind? How do you keep your friends together when a voice in your head is amplifying your worst fears about them?
The Nothic doesn't care about your armor or your spells.
Not at all. It cares about the cracks in your soul.
That letter from Glassstaff confirmed their physical danger. They're strangers marked for death. They are a threat to a major conspiracy. But the Nothic reveals a so much greater danger.
The creature has the contents of their minds. It knows their motivations, their regrets, their hidden desires. The price of gaining all that intelligence was their own mental privacy.
So as they stand there, frozen in that sudden, terrifying silence, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
This whole confrontation becomes about vulnerability. The letter calls them strangers and marks them to be captured or killed. But what is truly captured or truly killed when a monster steals the contents of your mind and starts using it as a weapon against you.
And what happens when those deepest fears start talking back to you, not in your own voice of doubt, but in the calculated, intimate voice of your enemy? That's the terrifying question they're left with, as that voice resonates, impossibly, in the sudden, profound silence.